First of all, I want to give my sincerest thanks to Commissioner Natalie Hall. We attempted to get on this agenda, and without you, that would not be a reality. And I just want to thank you, not just from me personally, but from my team, but more importantly, from the people that each of you were elected to serve. We have a public safety crisis going on. And Commissioner Ellis, it affects your jurisdiction in the same way it does all of your colleagues. I learned something as I met with each of you this week, and that was kind of what makes you tick. What information do you need to make decisions? And so one thing that you said was you wanted specifics. So I made sure that my staff pulled out specifics just for you. And as we go through this, we're going to talk about them. I have watched the entire day, so it has not been hours I've been waiting. It's been an entire day. But I'm like Commissioner Arrington. I got all night to deal with these issues. I am sorry that Commissioner Morris left, because I wanted to tell him by example that we are in a crisis. In his very district today, there was a shooting in Buckhead at the Toast of Lenox. Commissioner Hall, you know what I found really interesting today? You all were talking about the Hammond House. That's in your district. I have some murder numbers in here, but they're already wrong. Last night, 2 blocks from the Hammond House, there's yet another murder. So if there's anyone in here confused and thinks I'm here to talk about widgets, I'm here to talk about human life. So why am I here with you today? Well, I promised transparency, and that I would bring integrity to this office, and that I was going to be open and honest with the public when it was working well, Commissioner Hausman, and when it wasn't. And so I'm here today, so they're not backdoor meetings. There's not secret conversations, but the public knows what I'm doing and when those efforts are frustrated. When I took office in January, there was already a problem. Will you give me the next page, please? The next one. The next slide, please. The problem that this county is facing, each of you have heard me say it, it's the great trifecta that puts us in the predicament that we are in today. One, I took over an office that was mismanaged. Now that just sounds like fancy words, or I'm trying to bash the last elected. But we're going to talk about what the effects of that mismanagement were. We're going to talk about the fact that my brother stands here as another person trying to seek justice, and that before me and him took office, there was zero relationship between the sheriff and the DA. We're going to talk about an historic backlog from 2016 to 19 that doesn't have a damn thing to do with COVID. We're going to talk about staff that was not what the staff is today, qualified to handle this level of cases. We're going to talk about a crisis that's going on in each and every one of your districts. None of your constituents are safe. Not yours, Mr. Pitts, Chairman Pitts. Not yours, Commissioner Hall. Not yours, Commissioner Ellis. Not yours. And we're going to get to how do we fix it. On top of the historic backlog, then came COVID, creating other issues, and then the rise to crime. Will you take me to the next slide? Historical mismanagement, what does it mean? It means I walked into an office that had 6,085 cases, unindicted, uncharged, felonies. That's what it means. It means I had 51,000 cases going back to the late 90s that had not been appropriately closed. It meant I was sitting with 11,000 cases indicted in the pipeline but not reserved. And it means I was faced with unqualified staff. Take me to the next slide, please. Then COVID hits, so we make a problem worse. I shared with Commissioner Hausman, and she was just in shock. Not only did COVID hit, but there was an office that went home March of last year and didn't return till the new DA came. That's a reality. You had about 10 to 12% of dedicated staff there, and you had cases and crime going on, and nothing was happening. Take me to the next slide, please. What does this rise in crime mean? What does it really mean? It just sounds cute, right? What it means is last year at this time, there were 51 rapes in Atlanta. This year, there's 95. It's an 86% increase. What does it mean about rapes? It means last year at this time, Commissioner Hall, this is before last night, so my number's inaccurate. There was 61 cases. Now there's 76. Those aren't just widgets or numbers, and I need you to tell your staff that. That's 15 more of your constituents dead. Go to the next slide, please. And we're in a crisis. Recently, the Supreme Court issued an order. There's a rule within the law that defendants have to be indicted within 90 days. It had been put on pause. But on May 13th, the honorable justices decided that that rule had to go back into effect. And so we had over 1,000 defendants sitting that either needed to be indicted or they were going to get a bond and be released. It's real simple. The Honorable Judge Brasher, because the court gave him authority, said, well, I'm going to give a little breathing room, and he extended that 90 days, 30. And we begged. But he says, I can do it no further. I have no authority. Prior to COVID, what the DA's office was given was 0.01, somebody write that down, percentage of the money to deal with this unprecedented problem. Can you take me to the next slide? So maybe you're thinking, well, this ain't really my issue, not in my district. But no, the murders are occurring everywhere. There is 154, although the slide represents 150, coming from each and every one of your districts, suspects that may get out of jail on September the 13th. Write it down. There are another 78 rapists, and there are 1,433 violent offenders. Let me tell you how violent the offenders are. My brother here, he shared a story with me. See, he's trying to deal with this problem of jail overcrowding. And so he went to sheriffs in other counties to see could we get some relief. Then they looked at our defendants and said, oh, no, I'm going to leave that with you because those folks too violent. That's other law enforcement. That's what kind of crises we're in. Can you please take me to the next slide? So maybe people are confused and they think that once again I'm just talking about widgets. No, I'm talking about human life. I wish I could give you all 154. I wish I could give you all 154, but let me talk to you a little while about these victims from your district, Mr. Ellis. This young lady, she was in her 70s. My mama would say that's young. Her tenant bludgeoned her to death. That's one of the 153. Take me to the next slide. What about this beautiful baby? from District 2. Femur broke, dead. Can you take me to the next slide? What about this handsome young man? He moved here from Pennsylvania. Is a high exec at UPS. After a hard work week, he went to have a drink. I think that's his right. He walked up and became a victim to gang violence. He's dead. I'm the one who talks to his mama. Next slide. What about this beautiful young lady? She's not even from our county. She's from Cobb. Her and her mama and auntie shopping at Christmas. Anybody here don't go to the mall around Christmas? How about dead? How about this is part of the 153? Next slide, please. How about this person? Driving on our interstate. Anybody here that drives on the interstate? Anybody? Young man driving, reckless speed. Maybe you think from District 4 this was the only victim. No, there was also a 3-month-old baby killed and 3 others seriously injured in your district. Next slide. He's a famous actor, well known, goes to the convenience store. I'm wondering if anyone around here ever goes to a convenience store. Gets in a verbal dispute, is followed home, and shot in the back multiple times. Your district. Next slide. What about this beautiful young lady? Ever pulled off an interstate? Oh, and what about coincidences and how I know there's a God? I saw all of y'all this morning stand up here and cry with a young lady who had lost someone. Guess what? Same day, hours after, some of the same people at both scenes and both suspects are in the 153 days. Excuse me, the 153 murder suspects. Both the victim of that mama that you stood up here with and the suspect in this one. What's next? Can you take me to the next slide? This gentleman with acquaintances, District 6, they in the dispute with a shooting. Now, Commissioner Pitts, each of them has a percentage. But you and I know one thing, 100% fall on you, because you represent all these districts, and 100% falls on me. Next slide. What does justice require? Hey, here's the cold truth. Resources. Resources. So you wanted specifics, so I want to give them to you. And me and Commissioner Hausman, I shared with her, she was one of the last I spoke to because she had been traveling, but she truly asked some of the most poignant questions. It's no criticism, it's just a reality. And so she wanted specifically to know about the homicides. Want to know how many we're facing here? 665. I heard you on the news talk about reasonableness. Let's talk about what's reasonable to successfully do 665. Those aren't widgets, by the way, people. Those are lives. Of those, 313 are indicted. That means they're part of that 11,000 in process. 153, they may get out on September 13th. You have another 187 that are in various stages. Each represents a life from your district. Each of them. Can you take me to the next slide? To the next one, madam. So you want to know what I need? You want me to be specific? For that historical backlog, 2016 to 2019, I want 2.7 million. That translates into 23 employees that will focus on those cases, getting them charged and processed. Newsflash, Before COVID, it took 2 years to get through the system. By the way, when we charge those 153, each of your superior court judges will get over 10 murders. Some of them got 40 right now. It takes a week at least to try the average murder. You do the math. And those are just the murders. The COVID backlog, I've been promised, but see, I'm like Commissioner Hall, I want receipts. I want it on the record. They say I get $2.46 million to help. And I do appreciate the work of Alton Adams and Shay Alexander. You all should give them a hand clap for all the work that they've done, the listening, the hours. But let me tell you what I'm faced with. We come to commitments. I have documents on paper. We do this. Did you hear what they said? I listened all day to y'all. Since December, we've been doing this. Now, last week when I'm trying to get employees hired, because everything working so well. See, that ain't transparency. That's what we call a lie. And all of a sudden, everything we've been agreeing on for 6 months is no longer so. So I would like a vote when the whole board is here. The list I was sitting by your representatives at those rates, I'd like you to enforce your staff to keep their commitment. So that's my ask one. Just do what you said you was going to do. On paper, in writing. What about crime on the rise? I'm asking for 2.5, but the truth is it 641 is already mine. But I'm tired of the games that keep getting played. Am I going to be able to use it to hire staff or not? Next slide, please. Next year, because I don't want to surprise anybody. You can write the numbers down. You know, we'll have to flesh this out. But if anybody thinks with what's going on with this trifecta, we can do what was done last year when we both, and everyone in this room knows, the DA did not even allow the current DA to participate, that's a joke. And the number one issue for the mayor's race and for each of your races is going to be crime. You want to know why? Because you can't even go to the gas station in our county anymore. So this is what I'm asking. I'm being transparent. And not one dime of this is going to me. I haven't asked for a raise, a car, anything. That is investigators and that is lawyers. Your people who gave me COVID money, just so everybody's clear so we can make it make sense. They figure by September that there are 10,000 cases. They are probably right, since we're at 7,800 now. They're giving me 10 investigators. That's 1,000 cases per investigator. Commissioner Arrington, you've practiced criminal law. It's a joke, exactly. It's not reasonable, Commissioner. Let me tell you what's reasonable, because this is what the county now has the benefit of. Miss Willis is a murder prosecutor. And Miss Willis is one of the best murder prosecutors in this country. I've tried over 100 cases. In case you don't know, Commissioner, I've tried the longest case in Georgia's history and the third longest in the history of the United States. I know a little something about a trial. What is reasonable is it will take someone with my level of experience, and it ain't many. At most, they can indict 5 murders a month and do it the right way so that your family or your constituents' family can get justice. At most, when I was a superstar prosecutor, I was trying 12 to 13 a year. There are people that are going to fall out in shock because most lawyers don't try 13 murders a year. Because a murder takes a week and months of preparation. We need resources. We need to stop being treated like this is a game. I've heard a lot of people say stuff about Mr. Herman today, but it ain't always on HR. Because oftentimes, I hear y'all talking about 300 transactions. I got to tell you, I've done 90 over the last couple of months. Has been a nightmare. Every transaction been a headache and a problem. And it ain't always on HR. Sometimes it's on finance. See, we're going to tell the truth today. just like I got a list approved from you all's representatives. So you know what? The first thing I'm asking for is I want to come back for a vote. I want you all to tell the public, see, I don't like all this, oh, when we lights, cameras, action, ooh, we serious about crime. But when the DA and the sheriff come ask you for resources, oh, wait a minute now. You tell me how we supposed to get these cases indicted without lawyers and investigators and legal assistants to do it. Tell me. How are we supposed to get them tried? And how am I supposed to tell them mamas we're going to do the very best job possible? So here, today, on the record, I'm asking for you all to approve the resources that we get. Finance needs to look at them. They can't tell me how to try a case. They treat me like I'm talking about library books. I'm talking about lives, sexual assault victims. And Mr. Ellis, one more specific for you. In the last month, I have opened up 11 human trafficking investigations. And please understand, when I say 11, I don't mean 11 victims. I mean 11 cases with multiple victims. 7 are from your jurisdiction. Why do I tell you that? Because crime is in your colleague to the left's jurisdiction, it's in your colleagues to the right's jurisdiction, and it's in yours. This problem affects all of us. It doesn't matter if you're black, if you're white, if you're young, if you're old, if you're poor, if you're rich, if you're educated, if you're uneducated. They don't care. They will take what is most precious to you, your child, your life. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. So what do I want? I want on your next month's agenda. What do I want? I want a vote. What do I want? I want resources so I can hire the staff that we deserve to have so that we can get this job done right. Commissioner Hall, let me thank you again. They tried to keep me off the agenda and you wouldn't let it be so. I want you to know I will always appreciate you for that. And that I can't be quieted. So I'll be back. And as I told Commissioner Ellis, oh no, I'm going to speak to you all as the electeds, and I'm going to speak to the public, because that's my boss. Thank you. If there are any questions, I will take them now.
Let's see here. Commissioner Abdul Rahman, followed by Vice Chair Hall, Scott, followed by Commissioner Arrington.
Madam DA, you know, you're so passionate, but it doesn't come as a surprise to me. I remember us all going to each other's swearing in, because all 3 of us unseated incumbents. And we swore to each other then to keep each other abreast any way that we could help out, get the information out. I was one of the first people to bring to the news media about the jail. I took heat for that. I was one of the first people to get out here in the streets and let people know that business as usual at Fulton County is over with. First of all, I want to do 2 things. I want to commend Vice Chair Natalie Hall for getting you on the agenda, but I apologize that you had to go through that, because crime affects us all. And when we have a sitting DA that has to beg to come in front of us, this is the climate and the culture that I have to work in. See, I'm not a junior commissioner. I'm not an intern. I'm not somebody who has on training wheels. I'm someone who can speak with authority because of my work ethic. And I know our work ethics mirror all 3 of us. You all don't work 9 to 5. You all take calls 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. You have very early mornings and very late nights. The issue I have with this, going on record, the crime issue has to be more than an election tagline.
Correct.
We got to stop playing this game. Oh, I'm against crime, I'm against crime, I'm against crime for elections. And then when it's the time to put the resources in place, oh, Madam DA, you got to choose with this, or you got to choose, or you. No, we got to stop playing if we want to do something about crime in Fulton County. We've got to give you the resources you need. We've got to give the sheriff the resources he needs. When are we going to stop dealing with this petty politicking and telling our sheriff one thing and our Madam DA another thing, and then I have a conversation with them on the phone, and it's totally different for what's been told to me?
And Commissioner, that brings me to a really good point. The sheriff and I were told today we would be on the agenda about an evidence facility that I spoke to each of you about in January.
We've got to stop it.
And we're not here.
This is the thing, and I'm not going to belabor the point. I want to make a motion to give them the resources they need because this is ridiculous. Crime is an all-time high. We're getting ready to be in a position where we may have to release murderers. This is not a third world country. This is Fulton County. We got inmates sleeping on floors. We got inmates waiting to be tried, waiting to get a bond. We've got people that are getting arrested that are very dangerous, and we're making you jump through hoops. Shame on Fulton County. You can get mad with me all you want to, but we should be ashamed that you have to come here and beg for resources. First of all, and I want to go on record knowing that as an unelected official, I knew the problems in the DA's office before I took the oath of office here. So as an unelected official, and I knew the problems in the DA office, you can't tell me that this body didn't know. And it was unfair for you to walk into that situation with no resources. I remember the first meeting begging for just this. The same thing with the sheriff. The sheriff and you both were not even allowed into transition. And then we want to get up here and say we tough on crime. No, what you're doing, you're playing with folks' lives. So as much as I thank Vice Chair Hall, this whole culture of blocking resources and this whole culture of lying to elected officials and going back and telling the DA one thing, telling the sheriff one thing, and then coming to the commissioner, telling them something totally different needs to stop. Give our elected officials the resources they need, because the next death may be at your door. We should be ashamed of ourselves.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you. This information is horrendous. When we met and I asked you for the numbers of cases, I did not expect this. And, you know, this is a lifestyle for me. And I tell every member of my team that you live this job. You don't punch out from 9 to 5. So if anybody interviews with me, if they think they're punching in and punching out, keep it moving, because you can't be on this team. This is a lifestyle. It's hard work. When I say hard, I mean it comes from your heart. And I see your passion. And I understand what you're dealing with just by looking at these numbers. And I just want to say, I don't know who was trying to block you, but shame on them. Shame on them. Because not one member of this Board of Commissioners, I can guarantee you, was trying to block you. Now, outside of this, I would like to find out, if we can, who was actually trying to keep you from speaking, because that should never happen. Now, I want to address a couple of things that you said. You said that you're supposed to get $2.46 million. You were told that from this project called Orca. I've never